Were you headed to the theme park just up the road? You must have been. There's nowhere else to go if you go into that direction. Unless you're taking a very odd route to Japan. It's not like there's a lot left there anymore either. So stay here for a few moments. Why, thank you, sir. You might be wondering what we're doing here. To be honest, so do I most of the time. But the important thing is that we're no longer over there. Over there. The amazing artist Wonderworld trademark, where you, dear citizens, are planning on taking your wee children to see actors, dancers, and musicians in their natural habitat. A circus-like charade of colors and shapes, performing skills so close to being lost to society. Artistic skills that they, Wonderworld's trademark, every year, the dedication, sacrifice, and endurance preserve in the dead lands of Canada. Keeping art alive where nothing else lives, one of the few left of its kind. But what they don't tell you is what goes on behind the scenes. What goes on behind the smoke and mirrors they show you in their cute little hollow pamphlets. The conditions the artists are forced to live in, and the lack of power we truly have. Listen, if you will, dear citizens, to our stories, and then decide for yourselves if you wish to continue your journeys. All we wish to do is what we were born to do out here, to put some life, some mystique and intrigue back into the world. Hence balloons. I bet you haven't seen real balloons in a long time. Some younger of you may never have seen a real bunch, only in pictures. They don't have real balloons where you're going. Holographic ones still, but you can't hold those. You can't let them go and watch them float up into space and cry at their loss. I've been keeping a bag of them here, but as we have no helium anymore, I've been filling them full of mosquitoes. So there you are, Martin. Don't mind her. She's not all there in the head. Had some of it removed. You are, we would hope, pro-art, as they say these days after Bill 34987, which required all artists to obtain an expensive government permit to practice their crafts, from oil painting to poi, and Bill 34982, which required all artists to be housed in specific artist housing, performing for financial compensation. To keep within certain legalities, we are not performing for financial compensation, and we will present our permit to anyone who feels the need to inspect it.
You stole it off an interpretive dancer in Minsk. Her name is Svetlana.
No one needs to see the life cycle of the sea anemone in 8 parts. She was going to starve anyways.
The life cycle of a sea anemone has 2 parts.
Exactly.
Oh.
I used to be a professional Shakespearean actor, you know. I made my living doing it, a true professional. Which is what I thought Wonderworld was going to hire me to do when my playhouse closed down. Given the company, I thought they might modernize. This bothered me, but I could handle it. Certainly, I had done Julius Caesar as a science fiction, Romeo and Juliet set in Warsaw, 1940. Really, nothing could faze me. It isn't until Bardwatch.
Bardwatch, a reality television show filmed exclusively in Wonderworld. It dramatized what it would be like if the major characters from Shakespeare's most well-known plays were stuck in a house together.
Except we really were stuck in a house together. On stage, our dialogue was mostly scripted, but the heat soon became real. I could no longer handle Romeo's womanizing bravado, a bikini-clad Ophelia threatening to lock herself in the bathroom anytime anything went sour, and Puck's constant meddling. The backstabbing, the love triangles, the cross-dressing. It just got ridiculous. I could no longer handle the stress of being locked in a house with these people any longer, nor the stress of my craft being reduced to whom would be banished from the castle next. Sergei here was in the pit orchestra, back when Wonderworld still did musicals.
I hear they still do. In New York? London, maybe?
You and your Broadway dreams. They keep us segregated for a reason. No one has heard from Broadway in years, and you know in your heart why. With musical education being reduced to a few borderland academies that could get away with such things undetected, many orchestra members went on quests to find positions there and were never heard from again. Without the opportunity to teach or perform, well, the musicians, they had nowhere else to turn. Composing is a dead field, just as artist becomes a dying language.
I suppose many turn to illegal busking, but the sound of music in most cities will be cracked down upon quickly. We've heard there are still a few private clubs left in the major border cities where they cheat the law by housing musicians in their crawl spaces and attics. Some singers enter the contest to become pop stars, but if you're over 25 and not built like a pin, with the right allotment of cascading, silky hair, you're pretty much done for. And it's not like these backup bands anymore.
They generate their voices. I was a backup dancer for a short while.
You did 220 shows.
With Prissy Pantless.
She had one selling feature.
And her voice came out of a computer. She employed a lot of ex-dancers, though. They had nowhere else to go. But she was so hopped up on...
Anyways, a children present.
Oh, she was 14.
Anyways, back to Sergei's story. He was one of the few who decided to save himself, if not his pride, by staying with Wonderworld. Most orchestra members became integrated into the cleaning and maintenance staff. The radiation levels were higher and the pay considerably lower, but many saw it as a superior alternative to being on the run. Besides, those who did run were soon picked up by the scouts and put back into the cleaning and maintenance squads anyway. Sergei was soon hired by the scouts.
They said my instrument was loud enough and unique enough that it could be used as a beacon of sorts. A rallying point for any lost artistic souls. For if an accordionist had remained alive, he must be from a land of wealth and acceptance, a land other thespians and music makers would die to be a part of. And it was such a singular sound in the world of auto-tune and synthesizer, many would be inclined to respond, out of both shock and hope that it came from a kindred artist.
No one suspected that it was a trap. Sergei would lure them in and have them walking roller coasters and cleaning up puke the next day. Sergei eventually defected from his role with the Scouts, his morals outweighing his desperation, and so he remains masked and his identity hidden, as unlike Marta and I, he is still technically contracted to Wonderworld. Marta here is what they called in the business a neuro-altered acro-repeat dancer.
They called me a nard.
That was the acronym they gave you.
But they said it in the same tone of voice as Dirty and Rerun and Plaster of Paris.
I know, dearie. They weren't very nice to you, were they? You were far better than what they made you to be. Marta was actually a very talented dancer once.
I was gonna be a ballerina.
She had her heart set in a New York ballet, and she could have done it too. She could have done it for a few years anyway, before it too could no longer open its doors. But then there was Alexei.
Don't say his name.
Alexei was a young scout who began his work at the beginning of Wonderworld's operation in this area. Unfortunately, he did not read the .03 font size at the bottom of his 4-year contract, which stated he had to go out and lie to young women, to subdue, capture, and have them mentally and physically imprisoned at the theme park. He was as fickle as any of us who use the stage as our canvas. He only saw the 4-year contract part.
He didn't know what he was doing.
Alexei integrated himself into Marta's ballet academy and scouted for the young female dancer with the most promise, poise, and pretty. And when he found her, he lured her in with the most vile, disgusting, and cruel trick a young female dancer could come up against.
He was straight.
And talented, and charming. She didn't stand a chance.
I never should have trusted him, but I didn't know he was going to take me away to that place that took my legs away.
Don't be alarmed, ladies and gentlemen. She still has her legs. Well, parts of them. Some splinting was required at one point or another.
I thought he loved me.
You mean like in those fairy tales you still believe in? The ones that are no longer marketable?
You believe in them too, you're just bitter.
Alexei told her he was going to a new ballet performance preparatory program which far outshone the capabilities of the one she attended. And she should go as well, because they would need her forever. And he wanted to be with her forever. And there they could go on to dance together forever. Like most sales pitches masquerading as romance, it was built on false forevers. As soon as Wonderworld had Marta in their clutches, she was dropped by Alexei, who went on to find more young female dancers to capture in turn. And Marta underwent consensual neurosurgery. They enhanced her cerebellum, doubling her motor coordination, stripped her of her ability to plan and reason to a bare minimum, and ruined her short-term memory. They also deepened her emotional memory and sensitivity by reinforcing her amygdala in order to make her more emotive when it was required for the shows, but allowed her to waste away in her own tortured little mind when not on stage. Thankfully, this wasn't often. She performed 8 shows a day, from backing up pop stars to circus acrobats. Because she could no longer remember the last show she had done. They only let her sleep for 2 hours a night.
He fell in love with other girls?
He didn't fall in love with anyone, dearie. Except maybe you. You were his first dancer, after all. But don't worry. You'll forget this conversation in 56 minutes.
Other girls.
But as much as you may blame Alexei, dear patrons, you should really be turning your suspicions and anger to the corporation which controlled him. The miserly mega-conglomerate you venture towards now. Because when you pay your fees and they punch your tickets, it won't just be lights and magic, you see, but the dark decay leaves an expense. Now, the pro-art of you may wonder, but what can I do? I, too, considered sculpture or samba in my time. What can I do to help you poor souls? Well, for one...
Don't go to Amazing Artist Wonderworld trademark.
And second, support your fellow artists, just as you have supported us by watching our little show. See through the bills and laws that enslave our kind, and do some underground creative work yourselves.
It costs nothing to dance with your family.
Watercolors run cheap on the black market.
It has always been a labor of love. That may always be the case. But don't let them extinguish the love for our labor.